everyone. We are back living the authentic life, and I have a guest for you. We had a New Yorker last week, if you can believe it.
There you go.
So Sachin is at
Ahluwalia.
Ahluwalia.
Yeah, H is silent.
Okay, Ahluwalia. Well, Danae Cangelosi Cremosta is a mouthful, so we're just going to go. You could call me whatever. We are, exactly. So I have followed your line, Sachin and Babi, for a number of years and was saying that I had the opportunity to meet your fabulous wife at Tootsie's, which we were figuring out was
pre-pandemic, I would imagine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Isn't everything either pre or post? And
that's the cutoff line for everything good or bad.
It is. But we all have made it through that, made it through the election, and we are on to
much happier,
days of joy and fashion.
Yes, we are.
Because you dress women for the most fabulous occasions in their lives.
Yes.
And you've been doing it for so many years. You started out in fashion school in New York, but even before that, you were in fashion in India. Tell us a little bit about your history in India growing up.
So I'm the only child, and my father was an engineer, and my mother was almost a homegrown designer. She started her own business. I think she was one of the first ready-to-wear designers, so as to call it, who started distributing to retailers in Mumbai and in New Delhi. At that point, if you can think back in the 80s, most ladies bought fabric, went to their tailor, and got their Indian ethnic wear made. And my mother used to do that, and she sort of found that whole process very challenging and tedious.
Yes.
So she says she found some tailors. She says, you know what, I have an eye for design. I have an eye for color. She bought some fabrics and started this brand called Anchal. Okay. And she started doing small shows, pop-up shows, very much like what we're doing today. She started there, and then she started developing it. I was, I think, 15 or 16. I remember our house used to be filled with fabric rolls coming in, coming out.
I have chills with the thought of that.
Oh my goodness, I would come out of my bathroom and there'd be like ladies sitting and sewing buttons, and I'd be like, Mom, I can't do this anymore. And so I was definitely exposed to it. I didn't know at the time I wanted to get in that business. I thought I definitely wanted to come to New York. I wanted to study. I wanted to go to Columbia or NYU, study business. And it's a funny story. I'm the only child, so my mom said, you know what, we're going to send you to the U.S., but at least stay with us after college for about a year. Just stay with us, work with me, help me out with my business. It was still a fledgling business at the point. And I said, okay. And then I remember there was an intern who told me that he's like, listen, and back then we didn't have the internet, so it was rather difficult applying to colleges from India. You had to send a letter and wait 3 weeks for a response.
Facsimiles.
Exactly. You send faxes, and so our kids take it for granted.
It's not happening.
So it was almost like try something and then wait. And I did get into some colleges for business, but I'd also, in the meantime, I spent 5 years studying economics and marketing at a college in India. So I had my bachelor's degree there. So I said, listen, let me just try to continue doing this. A friend of mine said, there's this great school called FIT. Why don't you go there? Once you're in New York, you can always transfer. You can go to you can go to FIT, you can go to Parsons, find out. It was very challenging to do it from here. So he says, listen, I'm pretty sure I can help you with the portfolio. Go to FIT. So I did come to FIT with the intention to study fashion, but I didn't really think that I'd stay there. And when I got there, I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the whole process of design, starting with, a concept in your mind, trying to sort of put it on pen and paper, and then picking the fabrics, and then bringing it to life. And then I also met Babi. She was also a student. She was studying textiles. It was a struggle in the beginning. I didn't know much about fashion. I didn't know how to thread a sewing machine when I went to FIT, but I learned fast. And then it's history. And then Babi and myself first became best friends. Then we started dating. And then when we graduated from college, we both had internships going on. Things were not necessarily working out. And what we didn't want to do is go back home to India with our tails between our legs. We called up our parents. We said, listen, give us 1 year. Let us try something here. I always loved embroideries. At the time, I was looking at who was doing embroideries in India, who would be a good match for us. And I knocked on the doors of Mary McFadden, Bill Blass, and then finally Oscar de la Renta answered. And that was history.
And when you say knock on the doors, you would literally knock on the door, try to get a meeting, and then leave them a sample?
We would leave them swatches. Yeah, so we started an embroidery house, which was, I went to India, spent a month, 2 months there. My mom was very gracious. She was running her own business. She says, you know what, I'm going to give you this little closet. You can put your files here. Work with these guys. These guys are good. Design your own embroideries. I gave her the whole business plan. She rolled her eyes at first. She's like, you know what? Try it. Why not? But that way, they were always very encouraging. Till date, they are. So she says, why don't you try it? These are my best guys. Work with them. So I created some swatches. I brought them back. And then, well, there were more than some swatches, so quite a few.
I'm certain of that.
We literally knocked on every single door. And, we met with Mary McFadden. We met with Amsala. I knocked on Donna Karan's door, and that time was very different. I think so. I'm dating this back to '94. At that point, embroideries, I think Donna Karan and Calvin were at the height of their careers. Those were the it brands in New York. And I don't know if you remember, Donna Karan had done the sequence jackets and these dresses with the New York City skyline on it. It was very, very popular, very famous. But what I learned bringing my culture was that sequins was not something in India at that time, was not something that honorable women wore. Yeah, sequins was too flashy, like a peacock, right? So it was not
bit Jezebelish.
It was too Jezebelish.
Yes.
And thread embroidery, Zardozzi, those were something that, the more respectable people wore. So I loved botanicals as a child. I found an artist who wanted to be a botanist, and I convinced him to work for me because he was beautiful in drawing flowers. And I said, could you help me work on these flowers? And he did all my artworks. I found a few embroidery people who did these. I took them to New York, and it took us, I think, about 4 or 5 months. And I remember Francisco Costa. Do you know Francisco Costa?
Yes.
Yeah, so Francisco Costa was designing the pink label for Oscar at the time, and he picked up the phone, and everyone else was giving the runaround, but Francisco said, you know what, can you be here in 10 minutes? And that's what we did, and we went there, and that was
wow. History. So he was just at an event here in Houston for the Italian Federation. No, Victor Costa.
Oh, that's Victor Costa, no.
I am confusing the two.
Francisco Costa went on to run Calvin Klein for, I think, over 12, 14 years.
Okay, yes. So interesting. And back then, you were literally waiting for every magazine to come out to rip the pages. I remember I was saving pages and images. It was truly the time where fashion shows were the only ways that buyers could buy.
Oh, Women's Wear Daily. I mean, we would wait for Women's Wear Daily. And during the shows in Paris, you couldn't find Women's Wear Daily anywhere, because we would literally wake up early in the morning to make sure we got a copy of it. And that too, we saw 1 image or 2 images. I think what we have seen in the last 2.5, 3 decades is remarkable. I think fashion is connected to people and accessible to people far more than it was, 20 years ago. So that's absolutely amazing.
So how did you manage being in another country? I guess knowing and having confidence in the artisans you had back in India was a big part of it. And even now, it's hard because everything is so international, but at least we can communicate by phone. I remember I was saying earlier, I was in the marble business. I remember when I used to go to Italy and my phone didn't work. And you literally had to go use the phone at the front desk to call back. It was just such a different...
You had to make a trunk call.
Yes, it was such a different time. So talk a little bit about that and those relationships.
Oh, wow. It took a while. It was, I think, like everything good, it takes a while. It is a slow growth. If you look at a curve, the curve takes time to build. It was also built on a lot of trust and a lot of travel. A lot of travel. I think Bobby and myself got married in 96. By March of 97, we were, we did the first show for Oscar. We worked for Bill Blass at the time. We worked with Mrs. Herrera for a bit. And we were still getting recognized. People were still finding out about what we were doing. But at that point, I think there were only 2 or 3 companies that did this kind of work out of India for Europe and New York. So it was hard, even though there were so few of us, it was very hard to break into that space. And a lot of that business was based on trust. What was so unique about it was because a lot of the embroideries that we did went down the red carpet, went down the runway, I got to work with the designers themselves. So I had first level access to it. You see, designers are very possessive and they are very, very firm on what they want.
And territorial, it seems.
And they're very territorial as well.
That if you were doing something for them, you were not able to show to. So tell a little bit about those.
Well, that's based on trust too, right? So because as the years went on and we developed and we became a design resource as well as a manufacturing resource for these designers, we sort of developed a bond. Oscar would call me sometimes at night and he'd say, you know what, I need you to go. There's an old vintage Chanel show going on. You need to go there. When I was traveling to London, he says, you know what, I want you to go and look at these archives at the Victoria Albert Museum. And I was like, well, how am I going to do that? He's like, I'll get you access. You need to go and see it. And then too, we didn't have phones, we didn't have cameras. You just had to memorize everything. So I'd fly to London or to Paris, go to the museum, see it, try to draw it on a piece of paper, and then fly to India and get that work done, and then fly back with the embroidery. So I think it was difficult. It was a lot of travel, but it was the best way to learn the craft.
And it was true artistic.
Oh, absolutely.
Only artists could do it. It couldn't be done by someone who didn't understand the ins and outs of all of it.
Oh, no. And for that, I give full credit to the artisans that I work with. In India, so all this work, all the embroideries, which not too many people know, is all done by men. So it's not something that you go to a school. I know Hermes has a lot of schools. They have 28 schools all over Europe that teach how do you make leather goods. There is no school for it. It's an apprenticeship. It's almost a craft that was passed down from father to son. Right? It's a very territorial, and it's built amongst certain communities. So what I realize is, if you go look up north in Calcutta, the artisans there, they are very passionate about their work. They're not very good people to do business with because for them, it's an art form. They look at it as an art form and they pour their heart and soul into it. So I went there, I got a lot of the artisans there, and I brought them to Mumbai. They settled down there. And I think that was the beginning. I think learning how to work with them, understanding their language that they needed, and then also allowing them the level of freedom to do what they want to do. And I think also I was very fortunate at that time, a lot of the designers that I worked back in the day, they understood it. They respected the craftsmanship. So they gave certain amount of freedom to do things. They were not so nitpicky. I need this to be here. I need this leaf to be here.
Right, because they would know that they were able to create something that maybe they didn't even know was possible. So I was saying earlier, I come from the marble and granite industry. My grandfather immigrated from Sicily. He was a shoe cobbler. So my father learned the detailing of taking care of leather, and then that translated into marble. Same thing. We would bring our craftsmen in, and they were raised in communities where they were taught craftsmanship. And now things are so different. A lot of it is computerized. It's done by putting something into a CAD program.
Now you have AI.
Yes, AI is deciding it.
True.
So I'm very nostalgic about the past and the journey too. So first you're working with all these great designers. Then I read there was a moment in 2004 where you were doing maybe some textiles.
Yeah, that was also by default. I think, we started working, I think Oscar was launching a home furnishings line. And he hated the fabrics they were showing him. And he spoke to me. He pulled out a book. He says, I'd love to do prints out of India, block printing. He's like, can you get on a plane tomorrow? Go to Mumbai. I said, my mother used to have block printing units. Let me see what I can do. So one thing led to the other, and we started a home furnishing soft goods company called Ankasa. And what we focused on is, firstly, embroidered fabrics, pillows, top of the bed. And at the time, it was a very unique concept. Not too many people were doing it. We work with bold colors, everything that we do somehow, not intentionally, it's in our DNA. We're India. Love the fuchsia that you're wearing.
I know. I even have a little bit of the tapestry here. Yes, with the paisley.
Yeah.
Well, and Houston's a very international city. So I celebrated Diwali last week. One of my girlfriends had an Indian wedding. I even have a bit of a henna left on my my arm from. But and then I was mentioning to you. Unfortunately, Houston is one of the centers for sex trafficking in the country. And I was just in New York at the UN with an incredible group called the NOMI Network, who are out of Dallas and New York, that fight to help women have careers in India. Because we have this to bring their way out of being impoverished, because they believe that's a big part of the role of them having to go into trafficking and so forth. So I think it's interesting that just the men were taught way back as opposed to the women, because that's what we envision is women sewing and embroidering and doing the handwork.
I think it depends on regions. You have to understand India from a cultural perspective. I think I was talking to somebody on the plane, and I said, if you can go from northern India to southern India, and today a southern Indian could walk in here and his language, his script, you would understand as much as I would. So we have, I would say, 300 different dialects, 14 different languages. And when I say languages, our script is different. I cannot make any sense of it. It's as good as Latin.
It's not like someone from New York and someone from Texas.
No,
it's very different.
We are the way our cuisine is, the way our cultures are, everything differs. But yet we're one nation. But the idea is we accept the cultures for what they are. And I think that's what keeps the country together. I think if you start from Kashmir all the way to Kanyakumari, they couldn't be pulled apart. You could have 14 different countries in one place. They're exceptionally different. But I think where the unity comes is there's a level of acceptance for each other's cultures and where they are. I think
and I love that.
Yeah.
Unity comes from where acceptance and where other cultures are. I mean, what a incredible blessed thing to have. I know. If we could have that in the U.S. Hopefully we will.
We will.
But being in the diamond business, my husband's in the diamond business, we also have a lot of Indian diamond dealers. And so one of them was explaining to me that there's a big difference by who is a vegetarian based upon if maybe they were in areas where you could grow more vegetables versus being a pescatarian closer to the water. Versus a carnivore eating meat or whatever. And I thought that is truly interesting by region, how that could also go into your religious beliefs and what, as a culture, you incorporate into all of it.
I think origins for everything. There's everything originates. I mean, even I studied this in fashion too. One of my favorite classes at FIT was the origins of fashion and how fashion has developed and why we wear certain things a certain way. It all has a purpose. Everything. I think fashion, when it started, was functional.
Yes.
Very much like you're describing. It came from a need base. If you lived by the ocean, you ate fish. If you had fertile soil, you could grow vegetables. That became, what you consumed. Today things are slightly different. We live in a much more. I think our choices are based on tradition or on general preferences. But everything, I think, has an origin if you think about it.
So the colors of India, I think of being very bright and significant. And I feel like as Texas women, we're more open to that. Whereas I go to New York and I definitely was standing out in my full pink suit versus everyone else. So tell us a little bit about, I notice in your collection, you cross over a lot of different colors. And do you see the difference in purchasing by region, or do you see that blending more within what you see from your clients?
I think that's an interesting question. I think about that a lot. I think when it comes to color and what I bring from our culture, again, let's talk about origins. Why is India so fascinated with color? Why do we embrace color so well? Well, India's been an agricultural economy for the longest time. Agricultural means you grow plants that have flowers. We celebrate Holi, which is the first month of spring of harvest. So that's why color is so important. At our weddings, we don't wear white. We wear beautiful, bright colors. We wear fuchsia, burgundies, purples. The more color, the better. So that's part of our DNA. I mean, till we were 23, we lived in India. We've lived in America for the last 30 years. And so bringing color to our collections, we have adapted to where we live. This is home for us now. We sort of learn when we talk about inspiration, who inspires us. It's always the women that we meet. I'm talking to you, I'm sitting here talking to you, looking at the way you're dressed, your lifestyle. We learn from that and we adapt to it. I think one of the ethos of our brand has always been meet her where she is. I think when we started our business as a younger designer, like every designer coming out of FIT, I wanted to sort of amaze the world and do something fabulous and
new and different,
and create this web of this beautiful web and invite people into it. And then as you go older, it's a little bit more than that. Of course, we want to surprise, delight, and excite the women, but I think you have to also understand what is it that she needs. And I think that comes with doing this for quite some time. That is a level of maturity that sort of finally sets in to understand where is she? What we spend so much time in our office and in our studio with every collection. Why are we doing this? Where is she going in this? What is the purpose behind it? That sort of really has helped us evolve in the last 4 or 5 years. To where we are, and that's also what brings us to Houston. We see our customer here. We see, I mean, since I've been here, I was at the hotel, I was looking at the women here. You're absolutely right. I mean, New York embraces black. I think it's part of the mood. And for me, I think when I think about Houston, I think one is always drawn to where the warmth is. Bobby and myself have been coming to Texas for the last, 10, 15 years. And we have always received the most warmest receptions. I love the idea that women enjoy fashion. I think they enjoy fashion a lot more than people in New York do. I think it's a bit of a misconception. Yes, New York is the fashion capital of the city.
Yes.
I think where people actually embrace it and enjoy the colors, the prints, everything that's fun about it, I think is here in Texas. And I think Houston, I think it's the third fastest growing city in America today. I think it's growing exponentially. People from all over. I have New Yorkers who are moving to Houston right now.
Yes.
I have friends in California moving to here. So I think there's a lot. I think Houston, the next 10 or 15 or 20 years, there's a lot more to come. So, we're excited to be here. This is one of hopefully many more trips that we'll make.
Wonderful. Well, we like our dresses here in Houston.
Yes,
we certainly love our jeans to be Western, but we love our dresses. And I see more women wearing dresses with cowboy boots now than I probably even see jeans. And we've seen those cowboy boots even in New York. So it's interesting. But what I've loved is let's go back to the beginning. So a lot of when you started your brand, because you were still providing the textiles, but yet it was time for you to branch on your own. And I talked to so many young people that want to start their own business or start their brand, but they're not quite clear on the purpose behind it, because I really hear purpose from you and understanding what makes them different and how they can help people to create a emotion or to create something that they're doing. And you guys do that in a really interesting way. And you do it at a value, which is a big part of what our business is, selling pre-owned, is we try to offer people a value. And so you were pretty new in a marketplace of offering gala dresses, cocktail pieces at a price. It's not a low price, but it's certainly, what was it said, a more friendly price or engaging price.
For us, it was always, I felt we had learned so much over the years from some incredibly generous people who taught us the crafts, and we had access to some of the finest hands in India. But a lot of the things that we made, a lot of the embroideries that we made that went down the runway or the red carpet, our peers, our friends didn't wear it. They didn't live those lifestyles. Not everybody was going to
the Met Gala,
right. or was in a position to spend $12,000 on a gown. That wasn't, something that we loved it. We loved the idea of doing it. It allowed us to do some incredible work. But we found a bit of a disconnect from the life that we were leading. And as we saw, and that's something Bobby and myself always have been open to, is evolution. As much as we want to stick to our roots, we always are constantly learning. Till date, I'm here and I'm learning today. And one of the things that we started seeing is through social media, through Facebook at the time, and then Instagram and TikTok, going back to that idea of a 24-year-old Sachin had to wait, get up early and try to get at women's wear daily to find one picture of what YSL did in Paris. Today was instant, in the palm of your hand. I think you could be sitting in a small corner in a room in Nebraska and you could see currently what is happening in Paris and Milan. So that means women were being educated on what is happening, what is current, and it was also allowing them to be more in control. I think that, to me, was the most transformative thing, at least in our careers, where we understood that I think the age, there's an era for everything. There was an era for a lot of these great designers, Valentino, all of them, where they could weave this design and invite people over. Today, the woman is a lot savvier. She is creating her own sense of style. One of the things that we always say in our office is that anything that we create is a product on a hanger, but when a woman wears it, it's fashion, right? Aww. So she brings everything into it. So once we started understanding that only when she's wearing it, how she styles it, how she does her hair, her jewelry, where she's going in it, then that's fashion. And, that's what's so great about Houston. Women understand that concept, and women, I think every single woman that I've met here in all my trips brings something new and something different to it. They're not following necessarily trends, they're embracing it. They embrace color, they embrace prints, they love dresses. And I too, from a personal, as a designer, I have a more old-fashioned way approach to design. I love dresses.
Your styles are very vintage, classic yes,
silhouettes.
But modern.
Yet modern, yes. Because I think to make it more relative to where the woman is today. I think when she feels more feminine and beautiful, as opposed to, I think when you see a lot of the shows out there and you have these fishnet dresses, and it's great, it's inspiring, but it's not practical.
It's hard to wear. Your dog's ripping it with their paws.
I think women still love that, but they want to be surprised and delighted, but they still need things that fit their lifestyle. If you are going out with your husband for dinner, you still need a beautiful dress. It doesn't mean that the dress should overpower who you are. It should embrace who you are and make you feel confident, beautiful, energetic. I think from a designer's point of view, fashion is one of the best forms of self-expression.
It is. Right? Absolutely. And so how was it going into, was it 2017, you guys stepped into the wedding dress market? You had always dressed the mother of the bride and maybe the bridesmaids, but then you were dressing the bride.
I think it was a natural progression. We enjoyed it. We did this for 2 or 3 years. And then as the business transformed, like I said, evolution, we realized that it was great, but more in a bespoke setting. I think when I saw the business as a whole, I see a lot of people who are really good at doing it. The way we had set up our infrastructure didn't necessarily support it. But fortunately, what we started noticing at the same time is the girl was also evolving. So instead of buying one very expensive, luxurious gown with a 12-foot train, she was opting for 3 or 4 dresses.
Right, and changing throughout the night, and then going away in something.
So that gave birth to the little white dress, as we have the little black dress. And I said, you know what, why don't we address those needs? She wants something. I think we had a bride over and she described it. She's like, Sachin, I need a dress. Once the grandparents leave the party,
that I can really have fun.
The music gets louder. That's the dress I want. And I was like, you know what? I understand you. And that's where our focus sort of shifted to. So we're fortunate because, we try not to sort of design towards a demographic. We try to design more to a level of sophistication. We do get the mother of the bride, and we get the bride, and we get her friends. We're fortunate enough that we can sort of bridge the gap between the MOB as well as the daughter. And you would be surprised, not all the daughters want, very, very short dresses or revealing cleavages. They still want something that feels sophisticated.
Yes.
And we love that.
Well, I have a 17-year-old daughter, so we are in the zone of the shorter skirts. It is quite, but we do make sure when we put our hand down that it goes to the bottom, so that was kind of the rule that we did. But what I've noticed about her friend group is they wear white year-round.
Oh, yeah.
And it's made me feel more comfortable. So I thought it was interesting because I tended to be, I was telling you, I'm probably your same age or a little bit older. And after Labor Day, even if it was 100 degrees outside, we were not going to be wearing our white dresses or our white shoes. And so I still hesitate a little bit, but I like that we're breaking rules.
I think that's what they are doing because they're so much more informed. They are making their own rules. It's not like breaking the rules. They're just creating new rules.
Yes, and that's very freeing.
I think there's nothing wrong in thinking, I wear white jeans. I mean, we're 76 degrees here
I know.
when we landed in Houston. But, and I think that is the whole idea of embracing how things change. And I think you can learn more and more from how she's evolving and try to stay with her as she evolves. So we always feel that if we get her at this point, we catch her, and she sees us and we understand her, I think she can stay with us as she grows and evolves, and we evolve with her. So for me, we at our office, when we're merchandising, when we're designing, when we're putting colors on the board, we're constantly we're sticking to what we know is true and good. We always stay with that. But at the same time, when we try to move forward, it's always from the prospect of evolution. Where is she? Not necessarily trends. That doesn't mean where the trends are, what's trending on TikTok. Where is she going? How is she evolving? How independent is she? If she wants to wear white dresses 12 months of the year, yes, then let's create beautiful white dresses.
I noticed there were a lot. And I thought that navigating your website was really a joy. I felt like you gave a lot of outlets from dressing for a specific occasion, whether it was day or night or even day to night, because I feel like that's something when I'm making purchases, I am thinking about when I'm traveling. We travel quite a bit. I go to Miami, I go to New York. What can I wear day with the flat? What can I wear into evening by just changing the jacket or changing to heels? And I think you guys are really strong in that avenue and help people to figure out and navigate through that, because that again is real life. That is real life.
I mean, I have a great team that works on our digital platform. They are the best at what they do, and I think they also understand it really, really well. And the process doesn't necessarily start at the end, it actually starts at the beginning when we're putting sketches on the board. We start with over 300 to 400 sketches on the board.
Okay.
And then the process that's the easy part, that's the fun part. The hard part is editing it and bringing it down so that we are season appropriate. We make sure certain things are perennial because certain gowns could be worn and certain prints and colors are worn all year round. Certain thing brings newness. We try to address all the little pockets that you talked about, day to evening. Also, we think about value. Value is driven by many different ways. I could do an embroidered gown and you could see value in it, but also in wearability, right? So if I give you an ensemble,
cost per wear,
but
how
also
many years,
how can you transform it?
Yes, and can you take it from a long touching the ground gown to a midi or even to a shorter gown as you're re-wearing it?
Yep.
And I feel like a lot of women are re-wearing, or if they're not re-wearing, they're selling it on online platforms, or they're donating it. We have several big events in Houston that take pieces from women's closets, and obviously I'm big into recycling and reusing and taking care of things. But I feel like that people are interested in purchasing something that has staying power, and even though it's on trend, that it isn't trendy.
Yep. I think you must have heard quiet luxury, this whole concept of quiet luxury, where when a woman walks into a space with her friends, with her community, she doesn't necessarily want to be branding the brand that she's wearing.
Yes.
I think that's become a little bit old now. I think she wants to walk in with the confidence that I've created my own sense of style.
Yes.
So whether there's a brand that's more in the discovery mode where we find ourselves in Houston, although we have a great online presence, but clearly that's something that we want to work on. But at the same time, she doesn't necessarily want something that has the logo written all over it. It could be an accessory, but not necessarily dresses.
I totally agree. And I find that between my friends and I, we don't want fighting logos. So it's hard when you have one brand with the logo that you're wearing with another brand with the logo, and the logos don't match, and then look like you're confused, but you don't want to only wear one brand at a time. You want to mix, again, to create your own signature look. So I think there's a lot of value in that. You also branched into accessories. So now you have shoes and belts and jewelry and bags. So talk a little bit about how that evolved, because that's a really busy, complicated sector to be in, but it seems like it just naturally goes, because when I see it styled on your website, you can see the whole look.
So, I mean, we always feel that our customer, the Sachin Babi girl, is a highly motivated customer, in the sense she comes in because she needs a gown. She's going somewhere. She's going for a date. She's got a wedding to attend. She's got a party to be at. She's the host of a party. She is highly motivated. All we have to convince her is that we're the place to find it. We have something for you. Now, what makes it easier is if we can dress her head to toe. That makes it a lot easier. So, I think for some of us who are very much aware and have the time, it's easy to go shopping on different websites and to different places. But for a lot of the women, a lot of the people that come to us, they don't have the time.
And it's confusing. And you don't know where you saw it or if it all works together.
It's overwhelming.
And so I think there's a real need for it. I also loved how you were able to help people figure out what their size was on your website, is that you could put in your weight, your age. And by the way, I was in a age group that made me very disappointed because I was 2 years past the other button. But with that said, I felt like it was great to tell me, based upon what brand I was in a different brand, what I could buy, because I feel like oftentimes you're like, oh God, I've waited, I need it, what size do I need? Do I need to order 2 sizes? How is it going to fit me? And so I felt like that was really helpful too.
I think technology today, we again embrace what's there.
That's AI, right?
That's AI, yeah. It's AI driven. We spend a lot of time with it.
Oh, sorry. Grace Kelly is snoring, but it's not that you're boring. Will you tell the audience about your dog?
Oh, I have Coco, and she snores too.
So we already had this discussion before. See, living the authentic life.
Absolutely. Our team, they are very tech savvy. They understand the new technologies that are there. Initially, we were cautiously optimistic on how well they would perform. But again, these algorithms, the more you use it, the better they get. And, we've been using this technology for about better part of a year now. And initially, it took us a while, but now it's getting better. And I think every month, every 6 months, every quarter, it gets better and better. And more
because
accurate.
then you get the info that someone put in.
Exactly.
And then if they return it because it didn't work, then you have more knowledge.
Then it self-adjusts.
And some ladies might not tell the truth on their weight.
That's true.
Or their age.
But I think that may or may not happen if you're at a store. And that's what makes e-commerce such a viable outlet for so many people.
Yes.
Because fashion can be intimidating. If you're walking into high street and walking into a beautiful shop where you have a beautiful salesperson, you may not want to reveal what size you are.
It's hard.
But when you're doing it sitting, in your pajamas at night, you're going to sleep, you're searching a website, and you see something, you'll put in exactly what you want. Yes, we do have a lot of customers that buy 2 sizes, and we encourage them, try it on. Because if you have an event that, we feel that there was a time where people bought 3 months in advance.
Oh, no.
Ours is more buy now, wear now. So if she's making a purchase, it's a good chance Friday night she wants to be in that dress.
Absolutely.
So we do see a lot of people buying 2 sizes. We try to make it easier to give them the confidence that there is technology out there. Put in the details as you want them, and you may not need to get 2. You could get 1, and that one be the one that fits you. We are also adding more customer service so that we can sort of guide you slightly better to it. These are all in tiers. We are looking into further customer service reps who will be working with us. We're working towards that for the next quarter. So there are a lot of things sort of in the works to sort of grow this. We also plan by end of January next year we're going to sort of convert half our office into a showroom, so we can actually take appointments for women to come to the showroom and try out things for themselves, because as good as e-commerce is and the ease is there, sometimes women just want to touch and feel things.
Oh, so right now you don't have a store?
We used to have 2 stores. We had in Madison and in Soho. After the pandemic, we shut them down and we never reopened.
It makes sense. Madison changed completely.
Madison changed. I mean,
and
High
then
Street isn't what it is.
Soho, a lot of stores who were there were not.
I think the big box retailers remain, but for a lot of us boutiques, we had to come up with a different plan. But I think now, since we've made so much headway in e-commerce, I think people have understood our fit. But I still feel the need. I think we can learn so much more when she comes in. We will most likely have a process where you can go online, pick the styles you want, book an appointment, come into the showroom, try those pieces on. Again, highly motivated customers. She most likely in the next 2 to 3 weeks on 30 days, she needs to wear it somewhere.
And if she's going to book an appointment, and that's sort of the way that we've evolved too. And there was a little bit of resistance, but not much, because I feel like after COVID, people became accustomed with making appointments, and every luxury retailer in Houston that sells similar things, Cartier or Van Cleef & Arpels or Hermes, they do request appointments there too. So we think that it's part of the journey. So tell us a little bit about what's next on your agenda. Are you looking at brick and mortars? Is it just in New York? Are you considering more pop-ups throughout the country to meet your clients and talk to them? Like, what do you see as new opportunities to get to know you guys at a different level?
I think all of the above. I think pop-ups is a great way to sort of understand the community, understand where we need to be. We're doing a pop-up. We've been doing it for the last 2 days. I think we are not averse to brick and mortar, but I like the idea of a showroom a little bit better. Like I'd mentioned, I like things. I'm a little bit more classic in design. I like the idea. I think, our average core price for a gown is $895. I think that's a lot of money for anyone to spend. We'd certainly want to give her value, but we also want to give her a little bit of the experience. And also sort of take away a little bit of the anxiety of sort of, does it fit? Will it fit? Will it not fit? And also allow her to sort of experience the brand, not just one garment. So a showroom is certainly in the works. It's something that I'm leaning more towards, where by appointment we can take anybody who goes online, makes an appointment, comes in, we do fittings, and we provide tailoring services too, so that it takes away the stress of sometimes you need to hem it. I don't know if I want to go to the right tailor. I need to take it under the bust. I need it tightened. I need it loosened. A lot of them don't want that stress. But what if we could do that for you? We know what to do once we zip the dress onto you, where the adjustments need to be made. And I think if we can provide them that sense of comfort and give them access to actually coming in and not only trying that garment, but trying other things that may work better for them. There's only so much that you can do on a phone call or on a website.
Right.
I think having a well-trained salesperson talk them through this. Like I said, we try to dress them for their most memorable, extraordinary days or events in memorable events in their lives. We want that thing to be perfect. We want it to fit them like it was made for them. So it's a little bit of work. Again, we're not opposed to retail. We could do that in retail too. But I think to do what we really want to do, I think we need a little bit more space. I think space to be able to host it and have on-staff tailoring services so that we can actually fit it. I have spoken with a lot of women who are not necessarily comfortable by taking, pinning a dress and taking it to the tailor and trusting that they will get it right.
Yes.
That can be intimidating as well.
Oh, absolutely. And there is a big part of how fabulous a man looks in their clothes based upon how it's tailored.
Yes.
And the most beautifully designed piece that's not tailored appropriately can lose a lot of its luster by not being. So you've shared so many great things about connecting with clients and planning new pieces and designing them and choosing the fabrics, and then tell us a little bit, like what is the thing that makes you come alive the most? What is the favorite part of your job? Because for me, I've discovered the favorite part of my job is being able to meet people and talk to them in this way. And it's only because of the fact that I have this business and I've evolved to this place that I get to have these moments. And it makes me so excited that I get this opportunity. So are there any other things like that you see that is like, you're like, wow, this is so, even after doing it all these years, I still come alive?
You're good at this. You've done this before. These are good questions. I tell my daughters this.
How old are they?
So 21 and 18.
Oh, wow. Are they fashionistas?
Sort of. One is a nerd. The other one wants to go into film. So one is going to go into banking. One is going to go into film. Who knows what happens later?
Right.
So I do tell them this. They always sort of comment that you and Mom work so hard. And you've done it. We've seen you for so many years, working in your brand, working in your craft. And I always try to explain to them, it's not necessarily work for us. I've been very, very fortunate to be in the business that we do. I work with some incredible people, incredible amount of talent, young and old. This vocation gets me to places that are, I do shows in Paris, I come to Houston, I go to Dallas, I'm in New York, I'm in India, I go to my factories in Vietnam. It allows me to really grow as a person. So I couldn't tell you if there's one singular thing that does it for me. I think the whole process of, again, envisioning something in your head and then spending the next 3 months bringing it to life, and you see it in little stages as it grows, very much like we call it like a baby. You're seeing those little X-rays of the baby sort of growing. We see this product grow, or this idea of the design grow. And I think the most ultimate form of flattery for a designer is when you by chance see somebody somewhere wearing that dress. And she doesn't know who you are, it doesn't matter, and if she's enjoying it, that is one of the most fulfilling things for a designer that he or she can feel.
I love that.
Well, thank you.
Well, our daughter is 17 and she loves math. So she is not following in our footsteps to do our business either. But she's going to work in some capacity of applied math. And we're very happy for her. But thankfully, she does love fashion. So she's a good model for us. But tell us, before we go, you were mentioning a little bit about some of the work you're doing in India with schools. And I think that's really meaningful too, because so much of who you are is based upon your culture and your homeland. And I think it's amazing how you're giving back.
Yeah, so I've lived, I was born in Delhi, but when I was 3, my parents moved to Mumbai, and I did all my younger schooling there. I went to high school and college there. And if you've not been to Mumbai, Mumbai is a very crowded city.
I haven't.
It's vibrant, it's colorful, it's not for the faint of heart. And one of the unfortunate things is you have a lot of street children there. And a lot of them don't have access to basic necessities. And a friend of ours worked with a charity, a small school. It was very, very small. It wasn't big. We really liked that idea. That not only, created an infrastructure to pick up these kids from the slums, pick them up, but also convince the parents that they shouldn't be begging in the streets. Allow them to get an education. We will take care of them, and we will feed them, and we'll take care of them while you're at work. So this organization led by this most incredible woman who did it herself, literally went door to door, spoke to the parents, convinced them that he doesn't need to go and beg on the streets. Give him to me, you go to work, I will bring him back to you when you come back from work. And they did this. They would bring these kids into the schools, educate them, feed them, take care of them for the whole day, and then drop them back to their parents only when they were back from work. Because a lot of these people don't have access. They depended on their neighbors to take care of those kids. So that was...
And culturally, this is what happens.
Yes.
This is not abnormal. It wasn't that anyone was saying, how could they do that? It was communities.
It was communities, yeah.
Living in this way.
They could be living in a slum, and your neighbor would take care. There was no other way. Your neighbor would take care of, if she was at home, she would take care of 4 or 5 or 6 kids. And eventually, but they were not getting an education. And I think education is the one chance you can give them to change their circumstances.
100%. Look, even Grace Kelly's going to go on her way for that one.
But I will share a story. So one of my oldest craftsmen, the last time I was in Mumbai, he came to me and he asked if he could share my number with his son, who was studying an MBA in London. And I remember when he started working with me, he was just a craftsman. I don't think he went to college. He just he studied till the 10th grade, very, very modest, lived in very modest means. And this is 20 years hence. And I was so proud that his son was doing an MBA in London. And then he described to me that his second kid is studying aeronautical engineering, and his youngest just got into a medical school. And you know what? That makes it worth it.
That changes communities.
This man's heart and his face was just swelling with pride. And this is where life took him in 20 years. And I think if we look back and we have a lot of people, I think 70% of the people that work for us in Mumbai have worked with us for over 20 to 25 years.
Wow.
And almost 75% of them, they're like family. So my mother, who sort of founded the business, my father works with her. She's like a mother to everyone. Anything that they need. And one of the things that my mother feels very strongly about, again, is education. Any person that works for us, if they cannot afford to send their kid to college or for schooling, they don't have funds, and the company provides for them. Incredible. So I think charity always starts at home. You got to take care of all. So you start with the people that work for you. The people that are with you, that will be with you. And A lot of them are, slightly older than us. They're in 55, 58, 60s, and they have now grown children. We have sent a lot of them to college. A lot of them have come back. One of them works, I remember one of our janitors, his son is my father's head accountant right now.
Oh,
so,
that's beautiful.
they become a sort of family and becomes a bit of a community. They, during lunchtime, they all sit down and have lunch together. They shut the lights, they have lunch together, they talk, and everything is shut for that 45 minutes, and everybody sits and has lunches together. They all share the foods that they bring from home together. So it's a wonderful feeling, and I think just keeping that community also thriving is also equally important.
It is. So one of the things that I've discovered in living your best life or coming alive is that this happens in areas that are blue zones. Have you heard of blue zones?
No.
And there was a Netflix show about it, and 7 of the 9 characteristics in blue zones where people live to be centenarians or 100 years old.
Okay.
7 of the 9 are about connection. And most of these communities, they stop and have meals together. They have movement as part of a day. They believe in community. They believe in taking time for self-reflection, whether it's prayer or self-thought or concern for something other than the moment. And it's interesting to see because so many of the stories I talk to, successful people or people who seem happy and living full lives, this is a part of so much of what they're doing. And it seems like it's a part of your business, it's a part of your core, it's a part of who you are as a person, and we see it, we feel it in your clothes, we feel the purpose in what you do.
Thank you.
And it shows, and it's just so moving to know the story behind it and that you're paying it forward and making a difference. Because if we all do that, we can just change the world and make it a better place, one person at a time. It's been such a pleasure hosting you.
Thank you.
I look forward to meeting you again and coming to your showroom in New York if that's an opportunity.
Absolutely.
But I will be at the event tonight, so you guys stay tuned to see what I purchase because I can't wait to try on. We are living the authentic life. Tell them how they can find you, your website and Instagram.
You can find us at sachinbabi.com and Sachin Babi on Instagram.
Okay, thanks guys.
Thank you.